Father God, I ask that you'd be with us today. I want to lift up Patty. I want to lift up Judy. I want to lift up Tony. And Father, you know everybody else. I pray for Cheryl Ramey. I pray for each one that is not here this morning. I think of Sharon Cooper, who is having some challenges right now. And I pray you be with her. Father, you know each and every one. Our heart goes out to them, especially Judy losing her husband here. But as we study, we ask for your Spirit to come, your Spirit to open up our hearts, our minds, our understanding. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're looking at John 13. John 13. Next week, I think we're going to go to the parting of the Red Sea. But what we're doing here right now is looking at ways for Bible study. So do you have your questions to ask when you're doing Bible study? I got to get mine out, I guess, here. Do you have yours, Dee?
No, I had gotten it out to look at it and forgot to put it.
I'm going to let you just borrow one here. You have yours, Becky?
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I've got one that says Alice Rafe-Snyder on it. I don't know how I got hers. There's Phyllis. So we do have, is Don Newton joining us?
I haven't seen him yet. Not yet.
Okay. Let me know if he does so we can use the microphone. So I'll take one and have, just in case he joins us, that we can, so he can hear. We're talking about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. So, Phyllis, can you hear Becky if she reads without a microphone?
Huh? No. Can you hear Becky if she reads without a microphone?
I think she answered me.
Yeah,
I'm going to use the blue mic, Gary. Could you start reading there, that portion on Jesus washing the disciples' feet? I want to read the text, and then I want to discuss it.
Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand now what I am going to do, but someday you will." "No," Peter protested, "you will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter exclaimed, "Then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet." Jesus replied, "A person who has bathed all over does not need to wash except for the feet to be entirely clean. And you disciples are clean, but not all of you. For Jesus knew who would betray him. That is what he meant when he said, "Not all of you are clean." After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them."
Now, we all know we do that as a church when we have communion. We have the foot washing. And so we have the foot washing service, and when we do that, a lot of people don't understand it. They just know it's something we do. So I want to discuss it, and as we read this, I want you to practice some of these things that in this, how do you study the Bible, questions for Bible study, so that you will apply them in your own Bible reading instead of just when I give them to you. I want you to be able, when you study the Bible. So I want to see how this works. So what does this tell us about God? We start out here, if you notice, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. And now he had loved his disciples during his ministry, and he loved them to the very end. Jesus knew who he was, right? He knew he was God. He knew he had come into the world. He knew he was going back to heaven. He knew who he was, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So what does this tell us about God?
That he's engaged in our life.
Okay. What does this tell us? I mean, because Jesus is on the very brink of going back to heaven, right? So what does it tell us about the heart of God? He who has seen me has seen the Father. He was the express image of the Father. So the Father would do the same as Jesus did. I mean, that's just, they were so intertwined. So we're seeing the heart of God in this passage. Everything had been put under his control, right? Everything in the universe. And here the ruler of the universe is setting aside everything and washing their feet. Now, it wasn't just any servant that could wash people's feet. It was the lowest of the lowest servant, the one at the end of the pecking order. The one that ended up washing people's feet was the lowest servant in the household. That was the mop-up duties. That was the, and so here the one that has everything under their control lays aside his garments and washes their feet. What does that tell us about the heart of God?
That he was love, he was of love.
He was of love.
There was no difference with what he did that he wanted them to do to him. He treated them the same.
He didn't ask them to do anything he wouldn't do. Right? Jesus led by example. He doesn't ask us to do things for him that he didn't do for us. Okay, that's a good point. Other points that this tells us about God. How do we see God in this? Or how does our perspective of God? How does it show, the question here, how does it show how he relates to people? How does that story show how he relates to people? Does he relate as our judge? Does he relate as somebody that's there to point out our faults? Is he relate there. I mean, he could have used that time to say, hey, Judas, and called Judas out, right? It says Judas, he already knew. The devil had entered Judas to betray him. He could have used that time to point out sin.
He did it as an example for us.
He did it as an example. So, and how does he relate to us?
Love.
With love, understanding. He gives us every opportunity, doesn't he? Judas had an opportunity when Jesus is washing his feet to say, man, I am sorry. But instead, in the Desire of Ages, when you read there, it says he doubled down. Who is this man that he would wash my feet? He's not worthy to be king. If he was worthy to be king, he would be standing up. He wouldn't be washing my feet. And it affirmed in his mind that if this Jesus will wash my feet, I'm doing the right thing by betraying him. You see, we all take things differently, but it doesn't change God. So was another question, how does this help me to worship and love God? A God that would get on their knees in service. A God that would get there and not put themselves above us, but would get there and do stuff like that. How does it help me to worship him and love him? So then let's look at number 2. What does it tell me about his relationship to me, my relationship to God, to other believers? Why weren't the disciples washing each other's feet already?
It was below them.
It was below them, right? We're not going to do that. I mean, I'm better. John should be washing my feet. Isn't that how they felt? So is this telling us we probably ought to view our interaction with each other differently? Not wait for somebody else to take the thing? But what does it tell me about his relationship with me or my relationship to him? Was this a personal act that he did? Doesn't he want us to have a personal relationship with him? If the creator of the universe that made me would get on his hands and knees to wash the dust off my feet, that tells me he thinks I'm important. I mean, this is a personal God. This is not a God that's waiting to judge me. This is a God that says, here, let me help you. I mean, how can I not love that kind of a God? All right, number 3. What is the example I want to follow?
Be humble.
Be humble?
Humility, yeah.
Okay. Is there an example to follow?
Yeah.
What is it?
Love, compassion.
Okay. Any other example to follow?
Do as he did.
Do as he did, which is?
Why he got down and washed our feet.
So we should participate in the service.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's 2 things to participate in that. One, it's sometimes a real blessing for somebody else. Maybe it's somebody new. Maybe it's somebody going through a tough time. And for somebody to get down and love them and wash their feet. That can be very touching for them.
I know. I can't wait for communion. I really look forward to it. I mean, I've even texted Rhonda a couple times and asked, is communion next week? And if
January 11th.
Because I do. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. January 11th is the next one we have set up. January 11th. I've got the whole list. I just don't have it with me. January 11th. We're going to try really hard to do it the last Sabbath of the quarter.
Okay.
So I think it's January 11th, March 29 or something like that stands in my mind.
January 11th is a Sunday.
Yeah, I know. So then it'd be the 10th.
Okay.
Okay. we're not going to start doing church on Sunday. I know it's the start of a new year, but that's not one thing we're changing. But Jesus asked us to. So it blesses them. Doesn't it bless us? And maybe there's when we read in Ellen White's writings, it tells us maybe if there's somebody that we got a little tension with, maybe that's who we need to go wash their feet. And we should do this before we get there, is we should talk to people and get everything right. Make sure there is no tension between anybody. That's what it says. So to do that, and then we can come with a clear conscience, saying, I've done everything I can. I want to be right with everybody. And so that's an example. He tells us, as you've seen me do. He tells us to do that. Is there a sin to shun? Now, I think Judas, we're seeing what's going on with Judas, and I think we need to learn from that too. If we're harboring something in our heart, and we see Jesus loving us like this, shouldn't we give in and let the Spirit humble us and cleanse us instead of doubling down on rebellion? Instead of doubling down on, I don't care, this is what I think and I want to keep thinking it. I mean, that was really Judas's opportunity. Because when Jesus was washing his feet, so the foot washing, we understand it to be this. You're baptized. That's why Jesus said, you've been washed. You're baptized. You're one of my followers. But you go through life, they traveled with sandals. You go through life, the dirt, the dust from the streets and all that, get on your feet, and so just wash off the feet, and you're clean. And it was symbolic because they're getting ready to take care of the Passover. And so before they had the Passover, let's make sure we're clean. And so symbolically, and so now when they're doing this, Judas had the opportunity to say, there's something in my heart here. And if he would have let it go and say, well, man, I can't do that. What am I doing? That foot washing could have given him a new start. That foot washing could have been a means of salvation for him. But by rejecting that, it didn't make any difference if he was baptized, not baptized, feet washed, or whatever, because he held on to the sin inside. So for me, it's that sin inside. Is there something for me to shun? I look at that as if I have sin inside, don't hide it. Don't hold on to it. Let it go. A duty to perform. I think we just looked at that. What about, is there a promise to claim? Do you have a sheet? Question sheet? We're studying the questions for Bible study. So we're just looking at number 3, C. We're in John 13. So what does that mean? When I go through this, I like to take the time because I would rather take one verse, one passage, and thoroughly understand it than be able to go through a checklist and say I got through the whole book, the whole chapter, the whole Bible. So I like to dig deeper. So what is the promise? Is there a promise here? And if so, what is the condition? Is there a promise here?
Well, he'll do anything to save us.
Okay.
I think that maybe the whole thing, the foot washing was for Judas. For him, because the rest of them, they had 40 feet. But it was for Judas to give him the last chance. It's probably the whole reason why he chose to do that.
Okay. And he said, what did he tell Peter when Peter said, don't wash my feet?
Have nothing to do with that.
If you don't let me wash your feet, you won't be part of my family, right? But if you do let me wash your feet, you will be part of my family. Now, like you say, but it still had to be internalized. It had to be from the heart, right? It wasn't a formal thing. So when I see, what is the promise? If I let him cleanse me, I'll be part of his family. That's what he's saying. And he's not telling me, go clean yourself up. He's saying, I'll do everything I can. I'll come right down with you. I mean, I'll get on my hands and knees. I'll wash your feet to clean you up. Jesus is saying, you won't have an excuse for me why you're not clean. I'll do everything I can to help you. I mean, I'll wash your feet. What do I need to do to help you be clean? And he's saying, if you don't resist me, you'll be part of my family, right? That's quite a promise to me. What is the condition? Letting him do it from inside, from our heart. Because Judas, he washed his feet, but Judas didn't let that affect him inside. So I have to let him clean me up inside. It's not just going through the motions. It's easy to go through motions sometimes. It becomes a ritual then. So when I read this, I go, wow, this is, we did this study. We had a men's group, Gillette, Wyoming. We had a men's group, and it was quite a group. One of our members that started it had been through some kind of a recovery program thing, and invited the people from that to come be part of the men's group. And so we had some former members, we had some current members, we had people that had never been in the church and all that. And we were coming up to a communion, and one of the members that hadn't been there in a while said, didn't I hear you're having communion at the church this week? I said, yeah. And he says, do you still do that foot washing thing? I said, yeah. One of the non-members said, what's a foot washing thing? And we kind of went through this. And I said, well, it's an open communion, and everybody's welcome. You want to come join us? And the one that asked the question said, how could I not want to? After what you just explained, he said, I would be foolish not to want to. He says, that's kind of like me telling Jesus, I don't want you in my life anymore. He said, and this would be like me saying, yeah, Jesus, take me, do what you want with me. He said, can I come? And I said, yeah. So we had almost that whole group come and join us for communion because they saw the beauty in it. All right, so now let's look at the number 4. Who, what, when, where, how, why. So start looking at this, and it gives you examples. What does this mean? What does God, who indeed intercedes for us, mean? So we see it there. Who does God, who indeed intercedes for us, mean? And then we see Jesus ever liveth to intercede for us. Is that the same thing? Is a Father? How does all that come together? How do the phrases relate to each other? Who really intercedes? Why does it mention the Spirit one place, God in another, or Jesus in another? Who, how, what, when, why? So we can ask these questions about this here. We can say, who? Well, we know the disciples. We know Peter. We know Jesus. We know Judas. These are some of the players we know. We can ask what? We can look at the cleanliness of sin. We can look at the surrender of our heart. We can look at holding the rebellion in our heart. What are some of the other issues we notice here? Some of the whats. When did he do this? So that's one of the other questions. When, right? Who, what, when? When did he do this?
Before the Passover.
Before the meal, right?
Yeah.
He did it before. So that's why we do the foot washing before the communion service, so our hearts are clean, right? So before we serve the bread and the wine, we have the foot washing so that we can make sure when we come before him, we come clean. When? Where was it? Upper room. Upper room. Who was there?
All the disciples.
The disciples. Okay, so it wasn't like us going down to Olive Garden and doing it there, right? It was to come together with the believers who are celebrating together. Why was it? Well, we've kind of covered that. How was it? And we've kind of covered that, right? Now, let's look at number 5. Does this verse speak to my heart? The question would be why. First, why? Does this passage speak to our hearts? Now, you don't have to this is something else I want to make sure we understand. You don't have to get an answer to every one of these when you read. You're looking for the one that speaks to your heart. And maybe 3, 4, 5 of them speak to your heart. You're going to get sidetracked and you're going to get frustrated if you try to make everyone apply to every passage. Because you got to look for what's speaking to your heart. So that question, what's speaking to your heart in this passage? What stands out for you?
I always feel really clean after I do that.
Okay.
Just cleansed.
Like your heart's cleansed.
I just feel really
Ready
good.
for Jesus to
I
come.
feel really good after I do that.
Okay? Anybody else? What speaks to your heart about the foot washing service at communion? Anybody else?
Currently, or what was in the passage here?
No, out of that or in your practice of it, or how does it speak to your heart? You read this and you've practiced it, and what does the foot washing part of the communion service speak to your heart?
Well, in the passage, like I said before, is that Jesus cared enough for Judas. I think he mainly did for Judas to have a chance to
Okay.
work on his heart. Currently, we need to search our hearts.
Make sure there's no Judas hiding in there on us, right? Anybody else? The next question is the hard one. What am I going to do about it? When we read a passage like this, the question comes up, okay, hey, that was nice, and we get to have a good discussion on it, get other people's thoughts, and we sometimes have a tendency to move on, right? Had a nice discussion in Sabbath School. But the real question is, how do I apply it? What am I going to do about it? That's the real thing, isn't it? And that's a personal thing. That's not something we have to answer out loud. But that's an internal question that when we're going through this is we have to say, oh, God, what am I going to do here? Am I going to continue like Peter? No, I don't want to partake. Are we going to say thank you? Are we going to be like Judas and double down and say, it ain't changing me? Still not happy. That's a personal thing that we have to come to grips with. What am I going to do about it? Number 6, what do I personally associate with this passage? Is there a time where you remember where, man, I didn't want anything to do with that? Or is there a time you remember where it made such a change in your life? Is there a time maybe you remember where somebody new came and joined you and you saw the difference it made with them? I remember one time when we did this. We did it at like an agape feast communion service, and we had everybody there, and there's a big table, like in the fellowship hall. It's in the gym, actually. And so we had it in the gym, and a lot of times parents tell their kids, you can't participate until you've been baptized. And so the kids are like, wow. And so I made it a little bit different. I said, the Seventh-day Adventist Church believes in open communion. Judas's feet were washed. We don't wait for somebody to be baptized. We don't wait till they're a member of the church. And also the Bible tells us, parents, teach your children and train up a child. Explain these things and why. So today, and this is not something you have to do, but today I want to give you the opportunity to do, is to parents, take your children aside and just have a little family talk and explain to them, before we do this, about the communion service that we've just talked about. And then I would encourage the father to take their sons and wash each other's feet, and let the sons wash your feet, and you wash your sons' feet. And mothers, take your daughters and make this, because sometimes we have it where the men go off and do it. Women go off and do it. Sometimes we have it where couples go in different rooms to do it. But I said, we'll do all those things, but I would encourage the parents with their kids and to train your kids and explain to them. And they did that. And I mean, it was bringing tears to my eyes, because I'm walking around and I'm hearing and seeing the kids and the parents and the fathers. There were borderline church members where the wives came to church all the time and the fathers occasionally and stuff. And explaining to their kids, and I remember one father had 3 little boys, and he's got them all there. And then he let the 3 all at one time wash his feet. But he's there as he's doing it and explaining to them what happened and why, and telling them about Judas. And it's like, I wanted to start crying. I mean, it was touching my heart when people experience things like this. So, what does it bring to your mind? What are the thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, when you do this? This is another internal exercise. But if you have some good ones like I just shared, I'd love to hear them. If anybody would like to share any about communion. What do I personally associate? If I had a similar experience, how have my experiences compare or contrast with what I read? What principle of interpersonal relationships do I find in this passage?
It's nice that Jesus stopped to explain to Peter. He didn't just blow it off like, oh, you'll get it.
Okay, expand on that a little bit.
That's all I have to say.
So, in other words, what if, what if in the foot washing service, instead of just washing each other's feet, especially if there's somebody new or somebody that may be their first time, about whoever's there with them explaining, stopping to explain, answer their questions about it. Or whoever's leading out in the ladies' department or the men's department before we start. What about explaining some of that? Going through that. It's a good idea, right? Then there's the value of doing this in a group setting. So we did Romans when we first brought this out in, where was that? That was in Lakewood, Colorado, when we planted that church. We used the book of Romans as a way to go through and do this. But what we did is we said, okay, we're going to start the book of Romans. We're going to read the first, 8-10 verses. And now we want everybody to take this sheet and go home and pray, no commentaries. Just go home, read it, and choose one of these things here. You can choose two if you want, but choose at least one, and pray about it, and ask God to help you see something that you can share. We want to know what the Spirit says to you. And so they did. They came back, and we had about 25 people, 26, 27 people. And everyone took something, and some were the same things, but they came back and shared what, through prayer and reading that week, what God had impressed on their heart with a question they had chosen. And it was profound. I mean, it was amazing as people worked through this to have them come back and share so many different things. And it was a real growth thing. I learned a lot with just what God put on people's hearts. Because when we're reading the Bible, it's the Holy Spirit that sits alongside us, right? And explains it to us. The only book you can read where the author sits beside you and helps you understand what you're reading. But it was a tremendous experience to the new people. A lot of them were just baptized. And as we're going through it and they're learning how to study their Bible and learning how to ask these questions, the Bible comes alive. The Bible comes alive. So now, when we get to this next one, number 7, this really opens up the door. So we read how the story and the question, what is the experience of the Bible character I am reading about? Who did we read about in this passage? Give me some names. Who did we read about in this passage? Jesus? Peter? Judas? Okay, so we've got 3 right there, right? So what if I am Jesus? How am I viewing this? If I'm Jesus, what am I experiencing when we walk in? As we open, let's just say it's the curtain comes aside and we see the setting of this verse. And the way it starts with Jesus, this is who he is. He knows he's going back to heaven. He knows, but he loves the disciples. And so he walks into the room, takes it all in. There should have been a servant. The water was there. The towel was there. There should have been a servant there to wash the feet, right? Who put this together? The disciples did. They went and made the arrangements for this. But they didn't make arrangements for somebody to wash the feet. So now the curtain comes back, and here we are. We come on the scene. Here's Jesus, and he's looking it over. And what's he seeing? Well, through the help of the Desire of Ages, we see them looking at that water pot over there. We forgot a servant. We're not supposed to have this feast. I wonder if we could get by with just having the feast. Maybe nobody will remember. But they're all looking at each other, like, Rhonda, you should have had somebody. And then John said, hey, Peter, that was your department. Peter said, no, Nathaniel had that. Can you just imagine? Everybody's...
I bet they did ask somebody and they didn't show up.
Could be. But then it falls on them, right?
They didn't want to be a servant, so I think they would be sure that they asked somebody.
Okay. So now, though, they're not there. Now whose job is it? The last one whose job it is Jesus, right? The last one is him. So he walks in. He sees these glances. And what does he do? His heart breaks for his disciples who are too proud to serve. He has been here for 3.5 years serving and leading by example. And he's getting ready to go back to heaven to sit on the throne of the universe. And he's about to die on the cross. They still don't get it. And so now I put myself in Jesus' place, and I feel I would have tears in my eyes, and they still haven't got this. Time for another lesson. And he goes, takes his robe off, puts a towel around his waist, and kneels down, puts water in the basin. You know, and as he's going through. So now we look at, what if I'm somebody else? So what if I'm Peter or one of the disciples? What's he doing? What's he doing? Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be a rebuke to you? Wouldn't that be a rebuke to you? Wow. I mean, especially Peter, James, John. I mean, these are his closest disciples, right? You'd think that they would have made sure. Judas. What if you're Judas? Yep, he sure isn't king material. No king would ever do that. Yep, I think I'm right in betraying this guy. I mean, he's not cut out. He doesn't have it in him. So if you're the character in this, I'd like to put myself in each one so that I can experience it to draw something out. As a preacher, I want to have illustrations for sermons. But as a Bible student, I want to understand the passage. So I like to do it even when I'm not going to be preaching on that topic. How did the person and God deal with the experience? How did Jesus and Peter deal with this? And it tells us, right? How do I respond in situations? What happens when, oh man, now this is where the rubber meets the road. What happens when I come to a situation where something needs to be done and it's not my job? How do I deal with that?
Well, you're to step in. Step up there.
That's what we should do, isn't it? Walking across the parking lot, there's papers there. We walk in and there's stuff on the steps. Instead of saying, boy, I'm going to make a note, tell the pastor, that janitor sure didn't do their job. Stoop down, pick it up, right? Isn't that what we should do? But too often we don't. So how do we respond? Because it doesn't just have to be the communion service. This is talking about service in general, doesn't it? Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do with all thy might. How would I like to respond? How should I? And it's easy to sit there with the Bible in your hand and a prayer on your lips and say, yeah, I would do this. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah, I would. Till you walk out and it's real life, you know, and then it's, well, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Not ready.
But we should make up our mind ahead of time. When that comes up, I'll do it. How does the biblical person's experience in God's way with them help me? How does the way Jesus dealt with the Peters, the Judases, help me? Especially as a leader, how does it help me to deal with people? Now, let's say I'm the person. How does the way God dealt with me or Peter or Judas here tell me about how he would deal with me? So I have encouragement instead of discouragement, right? Isn't there hope in how he dealt with even Judas here? What can I do to make my response what I would like it to be? Those are the hard questions. When reading something other than a story, ask, what is my response to what I'm reading? Do I believe and live what I'm reading? How do I feel about my response? What actions or plans do I need to take or should I take? What are key words or phrases? What significant words or phrases are repeated? What significant ideas, people, places are compared or contrasted? Are there illustrations used? Well, this is a big illustration, right? So are there illustrations? What do they illustrate? Is there a high point, a crucial point in this book, this chapter, this passage? If so, where? How do the preceding and following items contribute to that central point? What or who is the subject? Is the subject of what we're reading God? Is the subject Jesus? Is the subject the disciples? Is the subject forgiveness? Is the subject cleansing? Is the subject pride? Is the subject humility? Or is the subject all the above? Doesn't it help to know what we're talking about, to follow a conversation? What is the subject? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What is the subject in that? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What is the subject when you break it down? If an English teacher was helping you there, what would be the subject of that?
Creation.
What's that? Creation? I get another yes? Everybody in on creation? Some people still don't know. What would be the subject? God. God is the subject. In the beginning, God. He is the subject. What did he do? So God is the subject here. What did God do? He created. So we're talking about God and the action God took. He created. Well, then what did God create? The heavens and the earth. So we have the subject, God. We have the action, create, and we have the result, which is the heaven and the earth. So when we're going through a passage, we should be able to break it down kind of like that. What are the action verbs? Created. Okay, let's look at this other one. There was a householder who did what? The action verb, planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it and dug a winepress and built a tower, and let it out to tenants, and went into another country. Who is the subject? The landowner. What are the actions he took? And it tells you here. So what connections are you? Therefore, because, those kind of things, and we're looking at for the connectives that are being used. When we see a therefore, that tells us because this happened, now this can happen. It helps us to understand. Maybe God couldn't do it before, but once this happened, now he could. Therefore, how does identifying the subject, the verbs, the connectives help me understand the passage? What does it have to do with the verse before and after? How does this paragraph have to do with the paragraph before and after? This chapter, what are the thoughts related here and how? So let's just do this. Any other comments on the foot washing? We kind of got an idea how we're going with this type of a study, right? So let's go back to Exodus 14. Now, I'm going to read a passage. Really, next week I want to get through the escape through the Red Sea. But I want to set this. We want to set the tone, so we're thinking about this and have a little bit of, I want you to practice this. So, the Israelites, they're freed. And remember all the plagues. And so Pharaoh finally says, after 10 plagues, he finally says, okay, you can go. So they go. It says the Israelites left, verse 20. The Israelites left Egypt, camped at Etham in the edge. The Lord went ahead of them. He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud. He provided light at night with a pillar of fire. It allowed them to travel by day or by night. And the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or pillar of fire from its place in front of his people. Now, I get a lot from that. We can just look at that and say God is always there. He'll protect you from the heat with the cloud. He'll protect you from the cold with the fire. He will give you guidance day and night. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And the Lord their God was with them. He'll be with us. They have just left. The pillar of cloud or fire is there with them, a sign of God's presence. So, now we see in verse 14, then the Lord gave these instructions to Moses, order the Israelites to turn back and camp by Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. Camp there along the shore across from Baal-zephon. Then Pharaoh will think the Israelites are confused. They are trapped in the wilderness, and once again I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after you. I have planned this in order to display my glory through Pharaoh and his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites camped where they were told by God. And we pick it up here in verse 5. When word reached the king of Egypt and the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their mind. What have we done, letting all those Israelite slaves get away, they asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot, called up his troops, took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots. 600 chariots. Each with its commander. The rest of the chariots, Egypt's best chariots, 600 of their best, along with all the rest of them. He took every chariot he had, 600 best, leading them, each with its commander. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So he chased after the people of Israel, who had left with fists raised in defiance. So in other words, when they left, their fists said, we're leaving you, Pharaoh. We're gone. Our God delivered you. And there, we are free now. That's how they left. And the Egyptians, verse 9, chased after them with all the forces in Pharaoh's army. All of his horses, all of his chariots, all his charioteers, and all his troops. The Egyptians caught up with the people of Israel as they were camped beside the shore near Pi-hahiroth, across from Baal-zephon. Now, as Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked and panicked. No, wasn't God with them? Couldn't they see the pillar? Yeah. Hadn't God stopped? Isn't this where he told them to camp? Yeah. But they gave up real easy. They looked and they panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord and they said to Moses, why did you bring us out of here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Hadn't they been crying for deliverance? Hadn't they been crying, please, God, deliver us and free us? Now they're saying, God, why did you make us leave? We wanted to stay, but you made us leave. Didn't we tell you this is what would happen when we were there? We said, leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. But Moses told the people, don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch, and the Lord will rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. Now that's our setting for the crossing of the Red Sea. What does that bring to your mind? Let's start with putting yourself in the place of who are the main characters here. Who are the characters here that we see?
The Israelites.
Israelites? Who else involved in this story?
Some Egyptians came along with them.
Egyptians? Well, there's some that came with them, but there's also some Egyptians pursuing them, right? You got the Israelites, you got the Egyptians. Who else? Who else in this story? Moses. Oh, yeah, Moses is there. Who else?
The angels,
God is there, right? In the pillar.
the host of angels, though, for
The pillar is there, right? So we have God in the pillar of fire, or pillar of cloud, leading them. We have Moses there. We have Pharaoh there. We have the Israelites there. We have the Egyptians there, right? So for now, that's enough to start. So let's just say you're Pharaoh. You just lost your son because of your hardness of your heart. You just went through all these plagues, and you let Israel go, and now you look out, and you find they really are leaving. Now let's just say you're Pharaoh. How do you feel? Are you going to react the way Pharaoh did and say, phooey on that, I'm going after him in spite of everything? If you're sitting in Pharaoh's chair, and the counselor walks in and says, all those Israelites that were slaves really did go. We don't have them anymore. Are you going to say, I got enough trouble from them and their God. We're better off without them? Or are you going to say, what was I thinking? Let's go get them. Who's going to do the work? I mean, I'll have to do the work, right? Better go get them. I don't want to work.
Yeah, but after all the plagues that happened, I think I would have been chicken.
You think, I would think the same thing.
After all the plagues and stuff, and then your kid died, the baby died, I think I would be so scared. I would just say, go.
Yeah, I don't want any more. What's going to happen if I go get them and bring them back? That's for me.
Yeah, that's what I would think. I wouldn't.
But this tells me now, so what made Pharaoh do that?
Pressure from the people.
Pressure from the people? Sin blinds us, doesn't it? That's a foolish decision. If you go get them, I mean, your cattle have been killed, your crops have been killed, your kids have been killed. I mean, look at what's happened. The water turned to blood. I mean, really? You want to go bring them back? You want more for this? You really want more? So what would blind him to the consequences of sin, where he says, no, I want to keep on rebelling. I want to keep on getting my way. I want to keep on going on. What in the world would make him not wake up?
rebellion.
Satan.
Sin?
Yeah.
Selfishness? It's amazing to me how blind sin can be. How foolish the human heart can be to make us believe nonsense that there won't be any consequences this time, right? I know every time I did it in the past, what is it, 10 times now, I said no to that God. For 10 times it just got worse. But this time he won't notice. I mean, so we'll say, I'm going to go sin one more time. I mean, hey, this time I'll get away with it. I mean, so we're Pharaoh. I look at that and I say, well, I don't know, but from my perspective, he deserves what he got. He had a chance not to do it.
Plenty of chances.
Plenty of chances. And he doubles down on stupidity. He doubles down on foolishness. He doubles down on rebellion knowing who he's fighting against, and knowing the power of God, and knowing God wants his kids out of there.
And so for some reason, he thinks he's bigger than God or better than God.
So is there a lesson for me to learn there? If I find myself in that position,
You're going to step down.
I better back down, right?
Back down and let God do his thing.
So next time we're confronted in the middle of sin, we should wake up and say, where am I? Right? Am I Pharaoh here? Next time we're doing something we shouldn't be doing, and we've done it in the past, and it's never turned out good, right? Do we wake up and say, Clue, remember Pharaoh? Or do we say, fooey on Pharaoh?
That was back then.
Yeah.
God's different today, life is different today, right? Do we just say fooey on that? Or do we and go ahead and sin? Or do we say, oh man, I learned my lesson.
You learned your lesson.
It's good to see you. We learn a lesson, right? Hopefully. I wish I could say we really did, and none of us ever did that. Right? Don't you wish, even in your own life, you could say, never happens to me. Man, I let Pharaoh teach me. I never double down on sin. I never go back to that foolishness. No, because we do. Our human nature, without Christ, we are weak and foolish. And we go back and we end up in the Red Sea without it being parted. So now we have Pharaoh. We have God. God's a player in this. If you're God, what are you thinking? Now, I just give you a clue for me, because I kind of like to deal with logic and common sense. And so here's my thinking. That crazy Pharaoh. I mean, doesn't he ever give up? When does he know he's licked? And then I look at my children of Israel saying, you guys got to be kidding me. I'm here. I got my pillow. I'm right here. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. And you're afraid? And you don't think I can deliver you? Didn't I spare your kids? Come on, kids. Did I pick the right people?
They've been deluded.
I mean, if I'm God, but God is looking at him and he's saying like Jesus did on the cross, when Jesus is there and he's looking at Caiaphas, the high priest. He's looking at those that nailed him to the cross, and he doesn't look at them as perpetrators. He looks at them as victims too, and he says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. The devil has deluded them. And in spite of my mind saying, what's wrong with you kids? God is looking at his children and said, they don't understand yet. I got to give them another chance. God suffers long and is kind. His patience knows no bounds. Mine runs short quick. Hey, I gave you guys a chance. You want to be afraid, then stick with them. You want to go back, go back. I tried to free you. It's not on me if you're going to be slaves. I did my part, right? But God didn't do that. God says, Moses, just tell them, I got it, Moses. Just stay still. Calm down. I'll take care of it. They don't have to worry. They don't have to lift an arm. Just stay there and watch. I handled them before. I took care of this little pipsqueak called Pharaoh. This little burr in your saddle. I took care of him before, and I can take care of him now. You just calm down. Tell your people not to stress, Moses, but to watch what I can do for them. We're not too good at sitting and watching, right? So now we have the Egyptian people. Forget Pharaoh. You're one of the people in his army. And he says, you've lost your kids too. The crops have been lost in your fields, and your cattle have died, and your water turned to blood. And now this Pharaoh says, saddle up, we're going after him. You go after him, Pharaoh. I'd rather face your wrath than their God's wrath.
I think he was in revenge mode.
Pharaoh was, but what about the Egyptian servant? What about the army? Would you want to go? You just saw what happened. And the whole army went with him. Now, how can the whole nation, how can the whole army be that foolish? Oh, yeah, God licked you once, he's about to lick you again, but I'm in for it. Haven't had a good licking for a couple of days now, not since my son died.
They didn't have a choice.
It's true. They did.
I think everybody has a choice.
Yeah, but they're in the army. They.
I know that, but you could die here instead of going there and having God kill you. And what if the whole army said, Pharaoh, you want to go? Here's the chariot.
Well, he had men under him, so maybe he had to think he had to do his job and be tough.
But I'm talking not Pharaoh now. I'm talking about the army, everyone in the army. If the army would have said, we're not going, Pharaoh,
Firing squad.
it's like, you go, Pharaoh. You want my sword? You can have my chariot. That's me. There's some point where reason has to jump in. So do we follow people blindly? Do we follow people in sin like the Egyptians followed Pharaoh in sin? Because they have authority over us?
You just get too involved with somebody and you just...
Do we say, okay, I know it's not right, but the crowd is doing it? Do we go along with the crowd?
No, you have your own choice. You
COVID
make
showed us that, yeah, we do.
We do, unfortunately, don't we?
Yeah.
They did an experiment. And they took people and they put them in a room, like the mother's room here. Only here the glass goes the other way, so let's turn that glass around. So we could see in, and they couldn't see out. And they hooked up this machine with sensors on them. And then it had a dial, and a little lever or dial or something. And what it would do would be to send electrical impulses to that person, stimuli. And so what the experiment was, how much pain can people take within reason or still be okay? How much pain is too much for people? And so they did a study where they brought people in, they hired people to observe. And so the people were there thinking that they're recording and making observations about the people in the booth. And so you're coming in, you've been paid, and your job is to follow the instructor with his doctor jacket and his notepad right here taking notes. Your job is to run the machine, okay? And so now they say, okay, let's see how this goes, and let's put it half, just a half of one. And you see the people there, they get a little twitch, like that. And he takes his notes and go up to one. And that would, and then he'd say, okay, like that. And then it would be, okay, now two. And the responses, and they had a bunch of people there doing, the responses were dramatically different, and pretty soon they're screaming. Go up to 4. Go up to 4.5. And people are screaming, and the people that are turning it up start crying. No, turn it up. I don't want to. Turn it up. That's your job. We hired you for that. And then the people, they turned it up until it looked like the people either passed out or died. Where they, like they just electrocuted them. And the people would be crying, but not one of the people, there was like 200 people that they got to do this, not one of them stopped turning it up. Now at the end they told them, you were the experiment. The people in there are actors. There was no actual electrical shock, but they could see what you were turning it up to, and they're actors that were trained to respond so you would think. The real question is, why would you do it? Well, I thought it was wrong. Why didn't you stop? Why? Not one person. Not one person. So when I read my Bible and I see, all I have to do is look at this little part to see what sin does and how people react to it and say, really, there's a choice here. The Israelites could have trusted God. They didn't have to be afraid. They didn't have to panic. We've read our Bible. We know the story. We know he even got them through the wilderness, right? He got them into Canaan, right? We know the story. The Egyptians, why would they do that? We know the story, but why would they not stop? Why would these people keep turning the dial? What is it that would make the Egyptians follow Pharaoh? Why would God put up with a people like that? What about Moses?
They knew they didn't have the faith yet.
What about Moses? Moses, you lead this people. Why me? You can put me in this crowd. You got me talking to them. You got me talking to them. God, I'm in a no-win situation. Can you imagine where Moses is? I can't win with Pharaoh. I can't win with Israel. These people, you tell me to tell them to go, they won't go. You tell me to tell them to stop, they won't stop. What do I do? And so when you put yourself there and you're studying this, in my mind, now I ask the question, I can put myself in every place, but what about when I take myself back to my place? How do I deal with this? And have I really learned anything from this? When I face any one of those situations, when I face this as Egypt did, or when I face this as Israel did, when I face it as a sinner, have I learned to respond and give in to God? If I face it as an Israelite, as one that's been redeemed and one that's been saved, do I trust that God that got me out? I've seen him work. Do I trust him in my current situation? So this is the stage. Next week, we're going to study the escape through the Red Sea. Escape through the Red Sea. But you have the questions. You kind of have an idea how to proceed with this. So read the story. Come back ready to discuss some of these questions and choose some of the questions that you think apply, that stick out in your mind. Look at some of those. Come where you say, here's what I got. Here's what I learned. Here's what impressed me in this study. Be ready to share some of that, okay? Because the whole goal of reading this stuff and studying it is to learn. Isn't it? Not to be entertained, not to go, wow, that was a great story, but it's to learn. And to learn ahead of time so when we come to that situation, we can make the right decision. Okay? Let's pray. Father, help us not to double down on foolishness. Help us to listen to your voice, rely on your power. And Father, open our hearts and deliver us from us. Give us wisdom and give us grace to love other people and to see they're no different than us. They need prayer too. In Jesus' name, amen.